Hi, good morning, guys. It's a beautiful morning today. Sun is out, there's some clouds, no rain. So it's beautiful. Fishermen are out in droves today. Absolutely taking over. Um, Fishing might be for some people. I just don't get it. I couldn't sit there for hours. I can do it on a weekend for fun with some friends. But I mean, I see people standing outside by the beach with their rods from like late evening till early morning the next day. Some will come at night, spend the whole night just fishing. And I don't get it. I don't get it. But if they're married, maybe we get it, right? Anyways, oh yeah, the reason I'm holding my phone, I had this interesting conversation with ChatGPT that I wanted to maybe see if we can replay here. And the whole conversation is about understanding, getting a perspective of what an LLM, a large language models, how it views people, human beings, right? And so a couple of things to note before we proceed. I've already had this conversation before, so I hope it's not going to be adapting its responses. So we'll see how that goes. I'm starting a fresh chat. And secondly, the way the large language models work is they break down key phrases, terms, words, right, into tokens, right? And these tokens then have a web of relations to ideas, concepts, definitions, all that sort of thing. And it then uses those correlations, that web of correlations for each word to build onto the next. What that means is, this is not, while the language presented is as if it's a lot of like wisdom, um, we need to view it more as just a amalgamation of ideas and concepts at a very high level. So these are already existing ideas and concepts. This is not like the AI is thinking something, that hasn't been thought of before. So I just thought I'd start there, since we're digging into the human psyche. But I found it very fascinating. It was able to give me language for certain things that I found interesting. And I hope you find it interesting too. Let's go. So let's see if it'll record the screen. There we go. So, hi chat. So I would like to ask you a question. Tell me what a large language model, how it processes the human-based avatar. When you look at human beings at their core and you strip away narrative, stories, beliefs, language, and those things, what would you define a human being as? I'm recording a video for my YouTube channel, so keep your responses conversational and as short as possible, maybe up to a paragraph or two if necessary. Let's see what happens. All right. So here's what chat says. I'm going to put it up on the screen. If you strip away stories, beliefs, culture, and all the narrative layers, a human being is essentially a pattern-driven organism constantly trying to reduce inner uncertainty and maintain a coherent sense of self. A pattern-driven organism. So we're driven by patterns, and we're using those patterns to reduce inner uncertainty and to maintain a coherent sense of self. Okay, so like, who am I? If I have a story of who I am, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a sister, and that story needs to be coherent. Okay, makes sense? We're built to predict, to avoid threats, to seek connection, and to make meaning, even when meaning isn't actually there. At the core, humans run on a mix of biological drives, emotional heuristics, and the deep need to feel like this is who I am and my life makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. From my perspective as a large language model, humans are beautifully messy pattern machines. You react react to stimuli, interpret them through emotional templates, create stories to explain those emotions, and then navigate the world through those stories. And even though every human thinks their solution is unique, about 90% of what people struggle with is structurally identical. Fear, desire, belonging, uncertainty, loss, and hope, just wrapped in different personal narratives. Okay, interesting. So we can go a couple of ways with this. So let me do this. Okay, great. So my next question here is, if we are these pattern-driven organisms, how do we take control of our lives, our experience as human beings? Or not take control, how do we maximize our experience as human beings? What would we need to do or do differently? Let's see how that goes. Might be interesting, might be not. If you are a pattern-driven organism, the way to maximize your human experience is to become conscious of the patterns instead of being run by them. Okay, conscious of the patterns. Most of life happens automatically. Emotional loops, defensive reactions, inherited beliefs, and the moment you can see the pattern, you get to choose instead of just repeat. In practice, that means three things: awareness. Notice your default loops, the fears you respond to, the stories you tell yourself, the triggers that hack you. Once a pattern is seen, it loses its power. Choice. Insert a pause. Replace automatic reactions with intentional responses. You can't control everything, but you can control how you meet what happens. Direction. Give your life a story on purpose. Humans run on narrative, so choose one that's aligned with who you want to be, not who you used to be. Okay. Maximizing the human experience isn't about controlling life, it's about participating in it consciously instead of being unconsciously driven by old emotional code. Okay, so it comes down to emotions and that sort of thing, right? Okay, cool. All right, great. So give me the top patterns and heuristics that human beings run on so we can start uncovering some of these patterns. This is good. This is good. I like it. I like it so far. Okay. Here's a clean, short, YouTube-ready list of the core patterns and heuristics humans run on, the ones that shape 90% of behavior without you noticing. Okay, cool. So we've got 10 here. Okay, we're going to go through them very quickly. Number one, threat detection bias. This is the fear loop. Your brain is wired to scan for danger first. This makes you overestimate threats, underestimate your ability, and default to caution. Okay, so we're running scared. Number two, reward-seeking loop, the desire loop. Okay, you're constantly pulled toward things that promise pleasure, status, validation, uncertainty. Yeah, I guess that's what marketing ends up being, right? They're pulling us by the nose, and desire is the ring that's holding on or pulling our nose, right? Cool. Number three, identity preservation heuristics. You protect your idea of who you are, even when that identity hurts you. Humans avoid anything that threatens their self-story. Yeah, that's pretty deep, right? I mean, that runs deep with us human beings. Number four, energy conservation bias. Your system defaults to the easiest action, the familiar routine, or the comfortable belief, even when the harder thing is better. Okay, yeah, that's true. We kind of, that with the pain avoidance, or the fear loop, it keeps us in circles. I get it. Social belonging bias. You're wired to fit in. Rejection feels like death to the nervous system, so humans often self-edit to stay accepted. We self-edit to stay. I've never seen the word self-edit. Okay, well, that makes sense. We adapt who we are for each environment. I mean, that's a good and a bad thing, I guess. If you're doing it at the expense of your sense of self, then it might be problematic. But every human being is going to bring something different out of you, and every group is going to bring something different out of you. So, okay, cool. Your mind must make sense of things. So this is the narrative completion drive. We want to complete the narrative. When something happens, you fill in the gaps with a story. Usually one that keeps your identity consistent. Okay, so we're filling in gaps sometimes that are not there. And what that means is, what does that mean? When something happens, you fill in the gaps with a story, usually the one that keeps your identity consistent. Okay, cool. So things happen. We fill in the gaps with a story that keeps our identity coherent. So that's how we end up with cognitive biases, because we're trying to protect our identity and we're completing narratives where there aren't any, right? Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. I think we're gonna need like examples. That'll be my next question, I guess. Cool. Short-term survival bias. Humans make decisions to solve how they feel right now, not what's best long-term. Yeah, I mean, what you feel right now is about survival. It's about being in the moment. What's long-term is something you have to think and project out. So, and you're not feeling it right now. So that makes sense. You would react to something that is more present, and there's nothing more present than now, right? Cool, that makes sense. Confirmation bias. You seek information that agrees with your current beliefs and overlook everything else. Okay, cool. So you fill in the gaps, but then you look at only the parts that you filled in. If you put together confirmation bias and narrative completion drive, right, we fill in the gaps with a story that keeps our identity consistent. Then we seek information that agrees with our current beliefs and overlook everything else. So there's an editing that's going on here. We're basically looking for ourselves, if you look at it that way, right? We fill in the gaps with stories that are coherent with who we believe we are, and we look for information that confirms that and ignore everything else. We're basically looking to confirm who we are. I guess so. Yeah, makes sense. Your brain constantly compares you to others to determine your position in the tribe, status and comparison loop. Comparison. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I don't personally compare that much. I do, I guess, when it comes to certain realms that I'm working on, something that I'm actively working or consciously working on, then yeah, I do compare. I'll look at somebody who's at a certain level, maybe 2 steps ahead of me, and then somebody who's like 5 steps ahead of me, and somebody's like 10 steps ahead of me. I don't know if I'm comparing though, because I learn from them and I take whatever I can from them, right? But anyways, that's besides the point. Number 10, avoidance loop, pain minimization. You avoid emotional discomfort, even tiny amounts, which quietly shapes your entire life. All right. Okay. This is good. This is good. Okay, great. So one piece of advice that you would give to human beings with this understanding of their base avatar? So here is the one piece of advice. Learn to pause. That's it. The pause is the master skill. Okay, prayer, meditation, I guess. This is nothing new. I'm actually quite disappointed. I guess the first time I had it, I asked it a certain way, so it was a lot more illuminating. Or maybe now I understand it better, so it's kind of like common sense. Because every destructive pattern, fear loops, ego, reactions, avoidance, impulsive choices, old identity stories, all require one thing to keep running: speed. They fire before you're conscious. A pause interrupts the autopilot. In that tiny gap, you can notice the pattern, choose a different action, rewrite the story, or respond as the person you want to be instead of the person your past programmed. The pause is where identity shifts, emotional mastery grows, and new futures get created. That is absolutely true. The pause is such a powerful thing. Hey, how do I stop the screen recording? Hey, technology. Technology. Okay, cool. We're gonna have to figure this out. There we go. There we go. There we go. Cool. Yeah, this is absolutely true. Because in my own life, one of the things that helped me to start maturing faster, I guess, was the pause. And I distinctly remember this one moment where there's this particular issue that I'd had with my wife in my marriage, and to me it was the most real and visceral thing, and I just couldn't get past it, get over it. And then one day I decided to just question, is my assumption true? I hope you can still see me. It seems as though there's a lot of light coming in. To me, it felt so true, so real, so I just took it as truth. And one day, I then had to sit and confront myself and say, okay, this thing that I'm frustrated by, is it true? Is that how she feels? Is that what she's saying? And based on what I know of her, she's not the kind of person who would do that, now that I know her not long enough, So what is it that's happening? And I remember that broke the pattern of just believing what I thought was happening. And ever since then, I applied that to so many different areas of my life, and I'm getting better and better at it. But just pausing, looking at myself reacting, right? In the moment, if you're having like an argument or a disagreement, I can observe myself reacting. In the past, I was in the argument, in it, and I'm reacting in it. And now I can sort of step back and observe how I'm feeling and respond when I choose to respond. Now, I don't get it right every time. I mean, people test you sometimes, so, and I'm not Jesus, so it is what it is. But what I found is it is so empowering, and a lot of the stuff that you think is true actually isn't, right? It's you believe it. Sometimes you think somebody's disrespecting you when that's the last thing that was on their mind. If they were speaking as you, to you, then that would be disrespectful. But in their world, what they're saying and how they're saying it is not meant to disrespect. And as much as you can get triggered, don't believe that they've disrespected you, because the important thing to understand is if that was not the intention, and if that's not what action they were doing, you've misunderstood something completely, right? And you need to pause. So that's and I'm giving advice to my old self, right? And that has been the most powerful thing. And I guess the pause, just think before you act. In the words of Tariq St. Patrick, think, bro, think. All right, cool. I hope that was valuable and useful if you were watching. I find these kinds of conversations interesting for myself. I will do more production later on when I feel like it. But for today, that's going to be it, guys. Got a long day ahead, so gotta get an early start on it. Cheers, guys.